Our continuing coverage of the debacle that is the Olympic Stadium, and now the current plans by this provincial government to spend $873 million, that's the initial estimate, to fix a roof on a stadium that doesn't even have a permanent tenant when it comes to that playing surface. A lot of people are upset about it. A lot of people are now asking more questions than ever. Among them, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Nicolas Gagnon is Quebec director of that organization, and he's on the line. Nicolas, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Good morning to you.
Good morning. So, listen, I've been all over this now because the numbers don't make any sense to me. Whether it's the number to fix the roof or it's the number for demolition, which seems to be pulled out of thin air, considering what other demolitions around North America cost. Tell me from your perspective at the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, the questions you're asking.
Yes, well, basically, we're asking for transparency. We believe that not a single penny from taxpayers' money should be spent on the roof of the Olympic Stadium until we have all the figures that we deserve. But because we have to take in consideration that 2 weeks ago, on February 5th, the Minister of Tourism, Caroline Proulx, announced that by spending over $870 million just for a new roof on the Olympic Stadium, it would actually double the economic return and triple the revenues of the Olympic Stadium. And that would happen just like with some kind of magic staff. Mm-hmm. And there's actually no supporting data whatsoever. And then over the last couple of days, we learned that the reason why they are basically announcing this spending amount is because they don't want to demolish the stadium, and then they provided a number of $2 billion to say, well, we don't want to spend $2 billion to destroy the stadium, so we'd rather spend $870 million to renovate it. But here's the problem. We know for sure that the $2 billion is a made-up number. There's really nothing to support it. We have seen many examples in North America that shows many stadiums that were demolished for a fraction of that amount. So if the demolition amount is not good, it's baseless, then we should ask ourselves, what else is baseless in this announcement? Is it true that overall a new roof will literally double the economic return of the stadium? We need supportive data for that. And yet we have sent a couple of requests of information to the Ministry of Tourism, and we have to wait for this data to be provided. But for now, what we know is that taxpayers are in the blind, and the government seems to bring up a bunch of numbers that are yet to be supported.
Nicolas, governments are often not transparent, right? Governments are often opaque. But I want to ask you, in the case of Olympic Stadium, is there something exceptional here that goes even above and beyond what we normally don't see from a government? Is there something special here where they're being excessively opaque when it comes to the Big O and the numbers?
Well, I think that the worst part of this is also the current economic context. I think that many people would agree that right now there's many priorities in spending this kind of money on the roof of a stadium that is basically empty. Doesn't make any sense for most taxpayers. The context itself is really not the right one for this kind of spending. But also, I think that the fact that the government just did a press conference, didn't provide any numbers, and has not even provided any form of projection. At the very least, they should have done that. And they're basing basically their current study on the destruction of the Olympic Stadium on something that was made 20 years ago. So so the real question is it opaque meaning that the government is trying to hide something, or do they really have something to show in the first place? So we want them to provide the numbers before they go forward with anything. And I'm happy to see that there's finally some member of the opposition parties, such as the Liberal Party of Quebec, that also made a press release yesterday to say basically the same thing. Not a single penny should be spent until we have all the supportive data.
So I'm so happy you brought that up, right? Because it was actually going to be my next question here. If you look back the last 20 years, 25 years, whether it's the Liberals in power or the Parti Québécois or the CAQ, they have all been just going along with this. Like it's a fait accompli that the money at the end of the day is going to be spent on these renovations. So that's important here, right? And it was up until yesterday, whether it's Québec Solidaire or the Parti Québécois or the Liberals, we hadn't heard any opposition. Why do you think, and I'm happy that some things are changing, but why do you think it is that spending this type of money seems to have so much support among the various parties despite all the things you mentioned and what we've mentioned about how the dollars don't add up?
Well, I think that we have also to understand that there's no one wants to be the politician that will call for the demolition of the Olympic Stadium. It will not be a very popular call for anyone, and I can understand at some point why it would take some form of courage from the opposition party to actually stand there and say, well, no, we don't want to spend that amount of money. But I think that before even just canceling the whole deal, we should see at least what the numbers are saying. And so I think that the opposition parties are finally doing their job there and asking for accountability and transparency before anything goes forward. Now, this should have been done before because over $340 million has been spent on the Olympic Stadium since 2018. And now we're about to spend almost another $1 billion. Ever since the Olympic Stadium has been firstly built in 74, 76, we spent almost $4 billion, and yet nobody really asked why or never really tried to slow down the whole process of spending this amount of money. So I think that, yes, the opposition parties are finally doing something great here. They should push more. I think that all the other political parties, such as the PQ and Québec Solidaire, should actually also ask the government of Quebec to hold an independent inquiry, or at least to provide every information possible to the taxpayers so that we can make our mind. But it would be great to know that, because if there's one thing that we know with the Olympic Stadium is that overcosts are never very far. Mm-hmm. And so we don't want to see that again with this new rooftop.
Nicolas, if we could just be honest for a second, don't we both know, doesn't everyone actually know, there is no way, no how, if we ever see those numbers, there's no way the math will ever add up in Olympic Stadium's favor to keep it. Isn't that the hard truth?
Well, that's the hard truth, but I think that by asking this kind of accountability from the government, maybe they will see it with their own eyes, and they will realize that this is not a good call. There's a lot of other things that should be done with this kind of money. There's really other priorities in Quebec, and honestly, I think that the best solution for the Olympic Stadium would be to find some private partners, from partners from the private sector. Right now, we're literally asking the taxpayers to do a bet with their money to say that spend that amount of money, you're going to have a new Olympic Stadium rooftop, and somehow this is going to double the economic return. It doesn't make any sense, and I think that the more we're going to ask the questions, the more the government will realize that the answers doesn't make any sense at all.
Nicolas Gagnon, keep fighting the good fight. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
Nicolas Gagnon is the Quebec director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation.